This needs to be said, I'm tired of everyone putting this game up on a pedestal and claiming it to be the best game in the entire franchise. It's not the best game in the franchise, it's in fact the worst, and it's about time someone talked about just how terrible this game is. And since I've never been wrong about any theories or anything on Five Nights at Freddy's before, I'm sure my intelligent audience, who I love very much and are all way smarter than me, will 100% agree with me on everything I say about the worst entry in the series. Let's start with the character designs. Why do the toy animatronics look like dolls? It's like they were designed to be child friendly and giant overgrown toys and not solely just to creep out players who don't exist in this world. That's not scary. They should look like something that isn't allowed anywhere near a family friendly restaurant. Scott Cawthon shouldn't create characters that look like they're part of the world they exist in. I don't want to be immersed in the world I'm playing in. I want to be constantly reminded that I'm playing a horror game. The mangle just looks like a walking pile of parts, like as if it was constantly taken apart and put back together. How am I supposed to be afraid of something that I could take apart? Sure, it can climb the walls, ceiling, into vents, and bite you from the roof, but I would just swing at it with a broom. Then we have the puppet. Ooh, the puppet. Oh, it's the most important character and really creepy with how it just sits in the giant gift box most of the time and only attacks when the music box runs out. So what if tension is built up by constantly having to wind the music box and everything in the game is purposely designed to distract you from keeping it wound? As long as that thing stays in its gift box, it's not terrifying. Now I guess the Withered animatronics are for players like me who actually want creepy robots in the game, but guess what? They're not scary either. Just a bunch of broken robots walking around and being annoying. Yeah, they're not supposed to be walking around and kept in the back only to be used for spare parts. It's off-putting how they're even active in the first place, but how am I supposed to be scared of broken junk that's falling apart right in front of me? Foxy can creep down the hall towards you, but I can just blind him with my flashlight and make him go away. Boring. When you put everything together, this game is challenging, but why is it so hard? Oh, Scott Cawthon thoughtfully put in death minigames that provided story and lore bits to make even dying an interesting experience? Well, thanks for making the game nearly impossible to beat just so I can learn your complex story, Scott. I want the game to be piss easy and not challenging so I can blaze through it without paying attention to the world that was carefully and lovingly crafted. Gosh, it's like Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is purposely difficult so you actually have to use your brain and think about everything going on in it to be more engaging. Well, I don't have a brain, so I keep dying on night 3 when the withers are active because I'm just flailing around my mouse everywhere panicking. Me no good think. Freddy too bad hard. Bunny want that other shiny blue bunny. No ugly no face bunny. Many claim Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has not only the most lore, but the most detailed and intense lore. To this day, the backstory of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has yet to be fully explained. The death minigames are left entirely up to interpretation. Well, that's just lazy writing. I want my game stories to be fully explained to me so I can mindlessly consume and forget about them. I don't want to be kept up at night thinking about some of the unexplained phenomenon. My head hurts when I try to think. Everyone praises Five Nights at Freddy's 2 for having the most engaging story and introducing the most important characters. Well, first off, none of the characters in this game are all that important. Sure, this game introduced Purple Guy, who became the focus of the entire series and my second favorite animatronic, Springtrap. We also got the puppet, who did quite a lot and was even brought back later in several games in different forms. The character who got killed and possessed by the puppet was even spun off into her own separate character in her own separate book series. But having story significance and being popular doesn't mean you're important. Fans to this day still debate over if the Withered animatronics are the same ones from the first Five Nights at Freddy's or if they're completely different machines altogether. This is one of the bigger mysteries of the game, but that's just a cheap way of creating fake engagement. Sequels aren't allowed to have different art styles for already established characters to keep things fresh and exciting. Then we have FredBear's Family Diner, a location first brought up in this game and has since been featured in other stories, games, and even fan sequels. What has this location ever done for the franchise besides establish a point of origin for FazBear Entertainment and explain where William Afton got Spring Bonnie from? What else has this location done, huh? Oh, that's right, you can't think of anything because it hasn't. What's even going on in the minigames? Why do most of them end in jump scares? Why is there garbled audio I can't understand? Am I supposed to figure out the story for each of them by myself? That sounds like too much work. It's like you're supposed to talk about these with other people. Ew. And establish some sort of community. I don't know anyone who could help me with figuring these mini games out, and nobody's ever helped me understand anything I was confused with in this series before. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a terrible game and the worst in the franchise. It introduced completely forgettable characters that nobody has ever asked to come back or were further explored. The story makes no sense, and I threw a fit when I found out this was a prequel that took place before Five Nights at Freddy's. You have to die in order to access the mini games, which make no sense, and Scott Cawthon made the game purposely hard just so there's a chance you don't miss them. The locations are boring and never had any plot relevance. This game also introduced Purple Guy and the Puppet, two characters who never interact with each other or went on to have any significance in the franchise whatsoever. But do you want to know what the absolute worst thing about this game is? The undeniable, absolutely worst thing about Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is Balloon Boy, because everything else in Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is actually really good, and it's my second favorite game outside of Five Nights at Freddy's 3. I purposely left Balloon Boy until last because he is something I actually find annoying about this game, besides how outlandishly difficult Night 4 and 5 are. While I don't hate Balloon Boy, he always manages to feel like he shows up at the worst time, and if he takes your flashlight away, you're screwed. Yeah, Balloon Boy and the later Nights difficulties are the only things I truly don't like about this game. I love Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and while I was only able to beat the game once and never again, I love playing the remade version and Help Wanted. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a masterpiece of engaging horror, and I just wanted to stir the beehive and troll the community for a video. Almost everything negative I've said about the game in this video is not true and was played up for a joke. Thanks for being my shining star and making it this far so I could personally tell ya, April Fools!
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head